What's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame D, NYDC. You know what it is. Two mics up. Brand new episode. Tonight, we going international. And we are bringing a very special guest, a very, very powerful guest. She has a plethora of things under her hat. And she's very, very well accomplished. One of the biggest accomplishments, in business and investing, for all of you out there who are interested, this is the show for you. And without further ado, I'm going to bring tonight's guest to join me on the other mic, the awesome, the amazing, the fabulous Nikita Gossain. Nikita, thank you so much. You are huge. I have to throw this out here because this is one of the things that our team found. You know, you are a JRC, from Cornell SC Johnson College of Business. You are a notable alumni. 10 out of 10, one of 10. And you are an investor and entrepreneur. Like, that is huge. And before we dive into who you are, I want to know, what was that experience like to be, you know, nominated, highlighted, for the work that you've done? What was that experience like?
Yeah, look, thank you, Dame, for having me. I really appreciate that. And thank you also for the kind introduction. It was a phenomenal experience. And I'll tell you why. Obviously, it's such an honor, but it was exacerbated because I actually graduated from Cornell during COVID. So I never got a graduation ceremony, and Australia went into lockdown right afterwards. So when I did return home, I wasn't able to come back the year later when Cornell did put on a lovely graduation for us the following year. So it was a wonderful opportunity. My family came to New York, and there was a ceremony and a presentation, and I received the award, and it was a really special moment with mum, dad, brother there. It was really beautiful, something I'll cherish for a long, long time.
For those of you listening to Nikita, you hear her lovely accent, and I just have to ask, give us a little background about, yourself, where you're from, and then transition, if you will, as to how you actually got into investing.
Of course, yeah. So I am born and raised in Australia, spent most of my life in Melbourne, which I do believe is the best city in Australia. I lived in New York for a short period, obviously doing my MBA there, and I've lived in Bahamas for a period as well. So I was working at KPMG at the time and got sent over to work on some M&A transactions, and lived in the Bahamas for a period. And I'm Indian by background, so there's a couple of different worlds happening in my life. My partner's actually Indian, so he's from the Bahamas, and we do back and forth sort of relatively frequently. So it's all a mixed bag. I think I've always had that sort of perspective, though. I did lots of backpacking and things when I was young, probably traveled 40, 50 countries, before 25.
Wow.
So it was always sort of quite a global mindset I had, and I think it's an important part of, taking the best of everything that I've seen and bringing kind of all this amalgamation into my life and incorporating that into how I do things and how I conduct myself, both sort of personally and professionally.
Now I get a better understanding, because we were talking off air, before we got on, about goals and different things. So now I get I think a little bit more of an insight, like, share, if you could, some of the things that we talked about, like your goals, because now I see your world travel, living in the Bahamas, living in Australia, having the Indian background and culture. There's a lot of drive there, and for the things that you talk about, and then to get your MBA, in business, you have some really awesome goals that I really would like for you to talk about, what we shared, off screen, because I was blown away. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have to listen to this.
Look, so it's an annual goal setting experience that I do. It is essentially an exercise that goes through like 12 different categories of your life. So across kind of education, purpose, emotional relationships, job, career, location that you're living in, all of these various areas of your life. And it takes a really comprehensive look at where you're happy, where you're not, where you need to set some goals and where you don't. And it goes through all of that. It takes a couple of days to complete. The guide that's probably easiest to go through this exercise is called the 8,760 hours guide. So the number of years in a year, a number of hours in a year. And it's I find a really comprehensive beautiful experience to do at the end of the year prior to coming into the new year. I've always loved, there's something special about entering a new year. I've just always found New Year's Day or New Year's Eve to be a really special experience. And I love that kind of, you know, this next year that you're stepping into, and you're going to become the next iteration of yourself, both personally and professionally, and you know, another chance to grow and reset. And so yeah, it's a wonderful wonderful guide and wonderful kind of way of thinking about things. And so yeah, I do goal setting sort of across the 12 areas, and it's you know, going, okay, right, so my goals are across business, across personal. It covers everything. It covers, you know, exercise, everything across the gamut, much broader than sort of traditional New Year's goals, you know.
What is the thing, or what are the things that you love about investments? What is that drive, or what is that thing for you?
Yeah, look, the greatest thing about investing is really the variety of businesses that you look at. So when you're considering a deal and whether to proceed with it or not, there are so many elements to consider. And if one element is weaker or too weak, it will mean that the whole deal is not a fruitful deal to go ahead with. So you have to consider, you know, it could be the best business in the whole world, and you could have a team in place that is, you know, not maybe open to changing or growth, or doesn't want to go in that journey. It might not have the right personnel, and even if fundamentally the business and the customer base and the recurrence and the revenue, it's all very strong, you cannot kind of walk past or kind of move past one element not being aligned. So it really is bringing together that full picture of a business. So I think it's that full picture thinking that's really interesting to me about investing, but also it's so challenging, right? You're picking up a new business every day in a different industry. You are having to very quickly upskill yourself, and during the diligence phase, you're basically trying to, within 2 to 3 months, understand the business and the nuances of the business, to take away, I suppose, the asymmetry that exists between the seller and yourself as the buyer, which is what's required to be in a position to come to the table in terms of negotiation and understanding what the deal dynamics and transaction structure should be. So it's I think it's the, you know, the race to the finish line. It's the kind of people element. It's really fascinating work, honestly. I think it's probably more for people that love the numbers and getting into the detail. But I do think it's just really interesting work. I was always found it fascinating, even before I didn't enter into investing straight away. I actually started my career in the audit division, and transitioned to mergers and acquisitions eventually, and couldn't think of anything else I'd rather be doing now. But yeah, it's a fascinating space.
What inspires you, like, to keep going and to keep grinding, if you will, to go ahead and achieve your goals and achieve these things? Because that has to take a lot of energy, for you to stay inspired and motivated.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's two-part, and the part that I really just touched on is a very real part of it. I love what I do. I find it fascinating work, and I love the financial modeling. I love the due diligence. I love the negotiation element of it. I even love, I love the kind of search for a great business. A lot of the times it's, cold calling, cold emailing business owners and having meetings with them and showing them what kind of the next phase of their business could look like when they're looking to retire, and how private equity isn't necessarily just about, come in, slice and dice, and it can be with a different lens around maintaining the legacy of the business and using that as a foundation for the growth. So I love every element of it, and I think that's what makes it really enjoyable. But look, in saying that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Certainly, don't get me wrong. There's of course difficult days, and probably in equal measure is sort of I suppose a thought that there is quite a lot of progress and growth and to be done in this world, and I think monetary. I just think there's effective uses of money to some of the most pressing problems we're facing in our world at the moment. So, like I said, I've traveled a lot, seen a lot of suffering. I grew up going to India, so I think having that also in my mind around kind of, with business as a platform to, of course, within the company, use that as a platform to impact, of course, the lives of the people within your company and then within sort of the broader community, but also just, even if you were donating 10% of profits of your companies and had kind of a solid portfolio, it's a pretty sizable impact you can have on this planet, and there's certainly very effective ways to deploy that money. So I do spend a bit of time delving into kind of where the most effective cause areas are, and how really that goal is working to decrease the suffering in this world. So I find the principles of the effective altruism community quite compelling, and I think that sort of analytical, tactical allocation to sort of doing good in the most effective way possible is a wonderful idea. It's you have that same principle when you're allocating money from an investing standpoint, so why not when you're allocating money from a charitable standpoint? So look, I think the second part of it is I just think there's a lot of scope for impact, and bringing those two things together in my life, I think it's a big part of my purpose, and frankly it's a lot of fun. So what else would I rather be doing? I'm not sure.
The key. Right, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that's the key right there. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna take a short pause for the calls, but I want to come back and I want to talk about that. With your work and what you're doing at PPR Capital, because that's really where you, as we've read and got to know more about you, you really work to bridge and really work to change the social impact, if you will, of things in communities, globally. And we want to talk about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short pause for the calls. We want to thank our sponsors here at Two Mics Up, for providing, their dollar. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're fresh out the break. We're here with Nikita Gossain, the managing director, PPR Capital. She's a phenomenal individual. She has really been dropping some major gems, here tonight. Just listening to her personal background and the work that she's doing, we want to continue this conversation and Nikita really drive and dive in, if you will, into your work with PPR Capital. So if you could kind of give us a brief synopsis of what your day looks like at PPR and what social impact, because you talked about that before the break, that you're trying to make, if there's a specific story maybe you can share of where you've seen success in your work at PPR Capital, that would be awesome as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, look, to outline what PPR Capital does, it's essentially around purchasing businesses that have a retiring business owner. So small businesses that fall within kind of an awkward middle ground where they're too big for an individual to purchase, but still too small for a corporate or any other sort of institutional investor to purchase. So buying these businesses involves, well, one, the search process. So a lot of the times these business owners are just starting to think about selling, and so to the extent that we can find them and initiate conversations with them prior to them beginning that process is what we aim to do. So it's a lot of proactive reaching out to business owners and showing them what kind of the roadmap for their exit from the business when they look to retire could look like. Frankly, we are seeing at the moment a bit of a retirement succession crisis. So I think a lot of business owners are hoping that their kids will take over the business and they don't necessarily want to. So we're seeing a real mismatch between the number in this sort of size range. So call it kind of 1 to 5 million profit. We're seeing a mismatch of the number of sellers that there are. And that's obviously going to grow over the next 10 years with the big sort of intergenerational wealth transfer that everyone's been talking about. And already there's a mismatch between the number of buyers available and the number of sellers. So my day can look like reaching out to business owners, having that first introductory conversation, and it can look like doing the first sort of swipe diligence over a business, so looking at the high level numbers and understanding the story. A big part of any type of investing is going way below what the surface level looks like and really going, how did this business get to where it is, and what is it going to take it on a really sustainable growth journey. So it's diving deeper into what you can see at face value in the investment memorandum. So if the deal is being presented by a broker, that's the document they will prepare and they will show you. So if ever one of your guests were looking to purchase any type of business, even a small business, they might expect a high level sort of information memorandum to be presented to them, and that would include everything around the business. It would include kind of details around staff, everything, all areas of the business, how the operations run, what are the products and services, what are the financials, what the growth prospects could look like. Obviously you have to sign an NDA and have a relationship with the seller for them to be sharing this information with you, but that is the information that's required when you're looking at buying a business, sort of big or small. And then detailed, sort of getting into the details, so having detailed walkthroughs at offices and understanding kind of the flow of the business. You get to do the financial modeling, and once you've got a sense of what the opportunity looks like, you need to model that out. So for the next 10 years, what does this opportunity look like? So what is it going to take to grow this business, and model that all out. And then the due diligence. So once there is alignment around the purchase price, there commences a due diligence period, which is a period of exclusivity. So it's a period where you and the seller work together in really good faith to just get the deal done together, and there's no one else in the process. It's just you with a common goal to get to the end of this deal. And you dig into every element of the business. So it's a really full-on process. There is a lot to it because everything needs to come up during diligence. So there will be, employee contracts, customer contracts, all sorts of things that will have to be reviewed. And it's really around confirming that all of the information that was provided in the early stages is an accurate representation of what was. So look, that's the process, and then you get to signing day, and signing day is really exciting because there's a lot that goes into the making of getting a deal done. So signing day, and then you go out for a great big lunch and a great big dinner, and you celebrate.
Celebrate, right?
Correct.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I couldn't have said it any better. Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Nikita Gossain. Thank you so much, Nikita. Now, before we go, though, I do want to allow you to share your any social media, your website information, any information that you want to share. Because I want our audience to be able to go ahead and get in touch with you if they need to, follow you if they can, and get behind and support, you and the work that you're doing at PPR Capital.
Yeah, Dave, that's a good question, and I'm probably pretty terrible, to be honest with you. I don't have Instagram. I have a LinkedIn. I am probably not super active on it, but I do have a LinkedIn. So of course, feel free to follow or reach out. And yeah, pprcapital.com is probably where you might see some updates, but also probably not so much. It really is just a kind of a website that exists to explain the sort of philosophy of PPR Capital. I don't necessarily update it with recent acquisitions or anything like that. So yeah, sorry, I'm probably not the easiest one to get in touch with. I think it's one of my 2024 goals to just improve that a little bit, because it's severely lacking.
And that's how we go full circle, ladies and gentlemen, here on Two Mics Up with Nikita Gossain. I love it. Great energy, great conversation. Continued success to you and all that you do. And you're always welcome. Come back. Any new news, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to share, you're part of the family now, so come on back. All right.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dame. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my honor. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another great episode, Two Mics Up. Next week, stay tuned. I'll be sitting down and chopping it up with actress Brandy Huzzy. I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all marinate on that one, because I'm not gonna give you no details. Brandy and I, we're gonna have a great conversation. So stay tuned for that. I'm your host, Damon Cunningham, aka Dame DNYDC. You can follow me across all social media, IG, Facebook, that Twitter or X thing, whatever they call it now, at Dame DNYDC. Make sure you continue to go ahead, subscribe to the show, Two Mics Up, and you can follow us across social media, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Two Mics Up. This is season 6, ladies and gentlemen. Two Mics Up is rolling on the Mogul TV Global Network, the #1 network for positive programming. We continue to grow. We hit 1 million subscribers. We are now in 32 countries. Get on board. Get on board the train. The train has left the station. As we always do at the end of every show, seek positivity in your life. Give to others, who may be less fortunate than you. And we'll leave you with these last few things. As we always close out, I wish you all to stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out. 007.